When looking over the topics of choice, many things seemed interesting to me, but the one thing that really stood out to me was early childhood and the psychosocial development. Although I am not an early childhood education major, I am a mom. And being a mom, you see things from a whole other perspective than once before. Ever since I became a mom, I've had this strong desire to stress the importance of small minds in children. This is Mason, my incredibly smart, spunky 2-year-old ball of fun. He's also my biggest supporter and my main reason for everything I've ever accomplished. Since the day my husband and I found out we were going to be parents, we spent countless hours talking and thinking about how we were going to raise our bundle of joy. Being in law enforcement and military, my husband was strict on how we were going to be as a family to ensure our kids were the happiest and healthiest possible. We wanted that perfect little family, and we were going to do anything in our power to achieve that, knowing some things we just can't change. Throughout those next 9 months, I read numerous books and articles over parenting and how to be the perfect parent. Truth is, nothing can make you the perfect parent, just the best you can be. Parenting is one of the hardest, most selfless, and rewarding things I've ever gotten the opportunity to do. One of the biggest aspects of parenting is nature versus nurture. In my opinion, nothing can prepare your child for the world and others in it than nurture. Although nature has a big impact, I think you can nurture a child to be a better person despite the environment or underprivileged development they may have gotten. In my opinion, social development is more effective than cognitive. The theory is that neglect, abuse, and early trauma somehow desensitize children to the feelings of others, affecting the rest of their lives and all the lives around them. Studies have proven that children from these families rarely grow up with happy minds and morals. In several studies, psychologists found that children who lived apart from their parents for the first 3 years of life were more likely to have psychopathic personalities. This suggests that failure to bond may play a role, just as the experiment with the surrogate mother and the monkey from Dr. Harlow. Did you know that more than 3 in 10 children grow up in broken or neglected homes? And these children account for multiple things, such as juvenile detention, prison inmates, teen suicides, pregnancies in teens, drug using, behavioral disorders, and homeless juveniles and runaways. One example of nurturing being more effective than nature is foster kids. I know this isn't the case in all families, but my husband has agreed with me on this due to the cases he has seen being on the police department. Despite the awful environment some kids are put into and taken away from their families, it's the love and nurturing that teaches them morals and values. You can have a child living in the projects with low income and barely eating to support their brain activity. No health insurance, so they are constantly sick and never attending school, but no matter how bad the situation may be, if that child has the unconditional love from a parent or a guardian, if that child has a support system, then that child is going to be much more appreciative and understanding at life's challenges. A child who grows up in a loving home, learning morals, is much less likely to wind up in a jail cell or mental hospital. Sure, their peers can pressure them and change them, but it's the foundations of how they learn. It's the power of the family that molds that child into a responsible, respectable, loving adult. And one day, a parent that will show those same values down for generations to come. In stages 1 and 2 in Erikson's psychosocial stages of developmental in children, he talks about the developmental crisis with children ages birth to 3 years old. There are successful and unsuccessful ways of dealing with each individual crisis according to the child's age and needs. As children's brains develop, so do their emotions, which are real and powerful. Since there is so much to talk about in each of these 4 stages in Erikson's stage development chart, I will only cover the first 2 stages, which I can honestly relate to on a personal level in our home. Next, I will discuss the successful and unsuccessful ways of dealing with each crisis, leaving an impact on the child. Children who have negative impacts on learning and unsuccessful ways of dealing with developmental crisis are more likely to develop self-conscious minds and social disorders. Once they're neglected and treated in a negative manner, they feel as if nothing they do is good enough, which leads to the child being unhappy or simply giving up. In stage 1, where the child is from birth to 1 year, the developmental crisis lies among trust versus mistrust. This stage is where the infant learns a basic trust dependent upon how their needs are met. For infants, Crying is a way of communicating. Responding to the child's cry by holding or talking soothingly will help establish a sense of trust and security. If babies' need for food, comfort, and affection are not met, they develop a sense of mistrust. This in return affects their temperament, leaving the child irritable, unhappy, and non-adaptable. Once the child notices the comfort and affection is met, they develop trust in the caregiver and expect those needs to be met in the future to come. This makes the child adaptable and happy. This is successful. In stage 2, where the child falls within the ages of 1 to 3 years old, the developmental crisis is within autonomy versus shame and doubt, where the children begin to understand that they can control their own actions, such as potty training, sharing, and learning commands such as no. Toddlers whose attempts at being independent are blocked develop a sense of self-doubt and shame for failing when parents discipline them for accidents. This again makes the children non-adaptable, unhappy, and develop struggles with self-concept and confidence. Parents who are successful in controlling their child's actions help the child develop independence and confidence. Children learn more in the first 5 years of their lives than any other time. These years are the foundations that set them and prepare them for everything. Good friends and encouraging words from adults are all important for helping children develop self-confidence, high self-esteem, and healthy emotional outlook on life. Love, security, and acceptance should be at the heart of the family life. Children need to know that your love does not depend on his or her accomplishments. Mistakes and defeats should be expected and accepted. Confidence grows in a home that is full of unconditional love and affection. Seeing my son grow these past 2.5 years, I am assured my husband and I did exactly what we needed to. Everything we do is for Mason. We want our children to live the life to the fullest and always be optimistic, but still a realist in the world. We are so proud of how smart and healthy he is, but we are even more proud of how genuine, happy, and lovable he is to anyone he meets. Knowing he is going to grow up and be a gentleman and a playmate and a responsible man is the most assuring and rewarding part of being a parent. And I couldn't imagine doing anything else but being a mom. As a parent, it's our job to ensure our children are the very best they can be, and I will never stop being that kind of mom that will do anything for her kids' development. And I hope he never stops seeing me as his superhero.